I've heard the older people talk about them. They were a beautiful tree. You know, they grew straight and tall, and they were just a beautiful tree. And most everybody in this part of the country, they eat those chestnuts, and they were part of their food. You know, they'd gather them in, and they could boil them or parch them or cook them. So that's part of their food. But they were good. They were real good. I've never seen anything like them since in my lifetime that was taste like the original did. Generally, when these disasters comes like that, it's already on you and through before you really know what's going on. You know, of course, now today it's no quicker than you did back then. People, you know, they didn't pay much attention to it at first, just the first three, but then they began to get excited about it, you know, and worry about it, and they didn't know what was causing it, you know. And finally, they began to get words, you know, through the means of communication at that time, what was happening to them. And there just wasn't any way to save them. Once that blight got in them, it did kill them. It didn't, and it kind of moved in a wave, like I don't know what it was really. I don't know whether it was in the air or what, but it moved in waves. You know, it started coming one way and just keep going through. You know, and it killed them.
I think it moved best. I'd find out what kind of blight it was. It moved fast. Like 20 years, it's all gone. That's what I'm like. I remember those dead trees standing. All these ridges full of chestnut. Right over yonder we call it Chestnut. Over there across the road about less than half a mile, we call it Chestnut. They were huge trees all over there. The hills covered up on them. That's why I went and picked them up when I was a kid. The dead trees were just standing everywhere over there.
Yeah, I can remember back, there used to be a big chestnut tree. Oh, it was a huge one. Right down the road here. I'd come in from school every evening and we'd get us some chestnuts. If the hogs didn't beat us and get them now. See, there weren't no stock law then. The cattle and hogs and things run out, and they just searched for them chestnuts and things. Yeah, I remember seeing them real well.
I know that they were real important to the farmers because they fattened hogs on them. The old farmers, they placed from here about, well, they carried them everywhere. My grandfather was a hog farmer. And in the fall, when the mash was good, acorns and especially chestnuts, they would haul their hogs to these wooded areas away from here. They'd run them here to eat up everything, then they'd carry them off to other places. And the men would go with them and stay with them during the week and herd them just like cattle. They'd stay with them, keep up with them. You know, a hog goes wild after about 4, 5, 6 weeks. They'd go wild. And they'd stay with them and feed them a little corn and take care of them. They'd fat them on that chestnuts, and whenever they got fat, if you sold them at that time, they could tell the difference in one is fattened on corn and one is fattened on chestnut. And they'd bring them back home, haul them in wagons. They had wagons that had tops on the beds. They'd load them back up and bring them back home, and then put them in the pens and feed them corn about 30 to 60 days, and then they'd send them off to sell them. So that was their way of harvesting what they could with the hogs, you know. And it saved a lot of feed by them eating the wild mash, you know.
You was lucky if you got, as the old saying is, a good mess of them for the hogs. The hogs kept them cleaned out. Lord, there was hundreds and hundreds of hogs, you know, roam these hills, and they'd search for them chestnuts. And my grandpa over there, whenever he wanted a hog to butcher, he'd just go up to the barn and call them hogs a time or two, and I've seen 25 or 30 come out of that hill there. And he'd have an old 25 automatic, and he'd pick out the one he wanted.
Now chestnuts, you could eat them, they were good.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was a kid, I don't remember going one time picking them up. And we picked up, I guess probably half a bushel. We're going to be on a hillside. But now that was just one time that I can remember I guess they died in the next that year. They'd come out of Nashville, around here in Franklin, come out the country, pick up Chestnut. That was a big thing, it was. Young people used to come out like that and pick up pieces. That all stopped.
I remember one time, they was having church right up the road here, and there was an old preacher. He didn't have a hair on his head. He went barefooted and didn't have no shirt on, and had his breeches legs rolled right up there, and his ankles and feet were just rusty as an old plow. There's 2 big chestnut trees in that graveyard, and he was making prayer. And that's where them old big burrs fell and hit him right top of the head. The blood spun that prayer better. That's he never let up, but he'd reach up and wipe that blood till he got his prayer made. It didn't. I just scratched him up, you know.